Dragon Age Veilguard. Will it be the end of the Dragon Age series? Let's see.
Salutations, everybody. It is Maddie here today, and my fellow Dragon Age nerds, we gather once more to talk about Dragon Age the Veilguard. Not much longer now until the release of the game, and that means we're starting to finally get hands-on previews. My hands-on preview will go out on September 19th. We'll actually talk.
Yeah, I'm sure it's not going to be biased garbage, because if he doesn't say good things, he's not getting the next pre-release copy, a scoop. Yeah, it's going to be great. Veilguard! Yeah, let's go, boys. It's gonna be horrible. Oh my god. It's gonna be bad.
Talk about that in just a moment. But IGN, they get to go first. They get the IGN first exclusive here. And so their preview is out now. A lot of brand new information that I know some people were really worried about with this game that we can finally clarify through this preview. So there is much to talk about. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome. Let's get into some Veilguard. But first, a word from today's sponsor. Are you free this weekend?
No, please, absolutely never free. Wait, this is a New World Ethereum ad, by the way. Holy, that is just, why didn't they ask, why can't I get a New World Ethereum sponsorship? I would say such great things about it because I have no soul or conscience.
Video. I want to clarify one thing, which is, yes, I said my impressions for Dragon Age the Veilguard will be out on September 19th. For those of you who watched my Starfield coverage leading into the launch of that game, you'll remember there was a 2-week period.
Oh boy, yeah, that was a great one. Starfield's gonna be amazing. It's so deep. Yeah. Deep as that endless chromosome vault.
Period where I had the game, but I was still doing my job, which was covering Starfield news. And I never broke embargo, but I did my job. And I'm going to do the same thing here, where you might get some replies from me that are admittedly surface level. And I'm going to let the IGN preview do the heavy lifting here. And that's just because I want to be careful as per usual and not do anything wrong and break embargo. So we're going to let IGN do some of the talking here, and I'll give some
I love when someone explains why they need to be spineless. What a great thing, huh?
Thoughts, because I read the comments on all my Dragon Age videos. I know there's still a lot of concern surrounding the game, and I do think this preview highlights a lot.
Obviously, this looks like a Fortnite map, not an actual, doom and gloom situation where the world's gonna just explode at any moment.
Of the problems people were worried about that may be gone with Dragon Age the Veilguard. And I'll just say, Too Long Didn't Read, is that the preview here is extremely positive, which is awesome to see. So let's get into it, shall we? I've picked out some highlights, so it may jump a little bit around. For starters, they say, after hours of hands-on time spread across 2 days, I am pleased to say I walked away with excitement and curiosity, but mostly relief to wave many of my concerns goodbye. My time with the Veilguard covered a wide smattering of things: the incredibly expansive character creator, the introductory quests, a faction mission, and a companion quest a little deeper into the game. But I was...
Oh boy, dude, I can't wait until we get to laugh about the companion quests in this game, because all the characters, all the companions are gonna pretty much be like, I'm gay, and there you go. That's their storyline, and that's their personality. I hope you enjoy such great writing, because yeah, it's probably gonna be that. The way that they have described the companion systems working here, it's congratulations, you're getting a harem, but a gay one. So, enjoy.
Was mostly pleased with my ability to just explore Northern Thedas in all its gorgeously designed glory, experiencing a setting in Dragon Age lore that we've only really heard about. So yeah, the table is set here. Very positive. Let's keep reading here, because this first note, I think many of you are going to be very happy about, where they say, to be clear, the Veilguard isn't the open world playground that Inquisition was. As game director Corinne Bush had previously stated, it's more mission-based. But what impressed me after our first few hours was how much exploration can still be done in the various regions, as well as the impact the player character, Rook, can have on those regions. Consider it something of a mix of...
Holy shit, look at that. You, the main character, have some slight impact on things that transpire in the world? Man, this is blowing my mind. I never even considered something like that. Oh, wait, that happens in every good game. Not even saying that this is going to be a good game. The fact that these people are like, oh, I'm so surprised you can even interact with anything in this world. That just tells me more than I honestly want to know.
Dragon Age 2 and Inquisition, the more streamlined approach of the former with the rich geographically and sociopolitically diverse world of the latter. So this goes to what
well, geographically and socio-politically diverse world of the latter. Now, this would be interesting if we were not talking about a woke shithole, okay? So, you see what's the biggest problem with woke? There is no diversity, okay? Everything is just a hodgepodge melting pot of fucking nothing. There's in the world of folk, there is no ability to go into a desert and seeing how the desert tribes live, how they manage whatever they're managing, how many dirt cookies can they cook. Yeah, that's a Haiti reference right there. And all of those things. No. In this woke delusion of worldview, your desert tribes that have no access to technology, trade routes, or anything, they're completely isolationists, they're going to be roughly the exact same as literally any other peoples anywhere else. And it's probably also more stupid because it's going to be completely unrealistic. One of the biggest things about woke gaming is the fact that they completely destroy world building, because nothing unique can exist, because anything unique existing means that it's not inclusive and that it's not diverse.
With the rich geographically and sociopolitically diverse world of the latter. So this goes to what I've been saying for a while, which is I've been getting Dragon...
Also, a socio-politically diverse world of mythos like this should mean that there's people who want to kill other people because they look different than you. That's what it should mean, by the way, in this setting. But I kind of feel very safe on betting everything I know on the fact that that's probably not what they mean by that.
Age 2 vibes from Veilguard, so it is relieving here to read that, yes, Dragon Age Veilguard is a little bit more in line with that. But for me, like many of you out there, I know there's love for Inquisition's main storyline and, of course, the Trespasser DLC. That stuff is really good. But I do look at Dragon Age Inquisition as a misstep for the series in what BioWare fans want from BioWare games, and it's not just to live in their worlds.
Oh boy, so you're telling me if that was already a misstep, the correct solution with Veilguard is to be even a larger misstep? Nice.
Where you're spending hundreds of hours doing fetch quests, it's living in the world repeatedly, is how I would define it. Like you're sitting there going through the 30-hour storyline multiple times and experiencing it in different ways. And you're able to do that because it's more compartmentalized. So it seems like there's still exploration here, a la say Dragon Age 2, where it's multiple segments of an otherwise larger world. But it's not Inquisition level where it's rich with fetch quests, which I just think is a great clarification to make off the bat and immediately increased my excitement. In this next segment, we're going to talk a bit about dialogue. They did have a section about combat, but I don't think it was anything you haven't seen before. They do say they had a lot of fun with it. They liked the combos and everything, but I didn't think there was anything of substance there that really you couldn't tell from the gameplay itself. So we jump into dialogue where they say, combat aside, your dialogue choices, your Rook's background tied to one of 6 factions you can choose, and the consistent decisions you make are immediately important, which shouldn't be too surprising for fans of BioWare games. I'm going to pause there because it is a little surprising. We've gone through a lot of games where the choices were not really exciting and really weren't present and were kind of defined by character faces, which this game also has. And with that lack of choice led to lack of impact. And so, yeah, a lot of people weren't too pleased with BioWare dialogue recently. So this is a good sign. For starters, they say the dialogue wheel is back, of course, as we've seen, as is the approval/disapproval system. But I was surprised to see that the Veilguard actually explains the consequences of some of your dialogue choices in very clear terms. It's a variation of the
Why? Why was the dialogue wheel explain the consequences in very clear terms? This is bad. This already implies that the writers for these dialogue choices think that they are so fucking high and mighty, so absolutely insanely competent, and so smart about this that they need to explain what's going to happen to the player because the player's probably clicking things on accident and they don't understand the consequences of their own actions. That is a horrible sign.
So will remember that system, but more specific. Take, for example, my first confrontation with Solus, aka Fen'Harel, aka the Dreadwolf. I chose a more sarcastic, humorous approach with him, and at the end of our confrontation, text on screen informed me that I have traded verbal jabs with Solus. It was far from the only encouragement.
Yeah, that's what you get for being fucking sarcastic. What do you mean? That's what you... Yeah. Ah!
Of this sort of text, and it leaves me curious as to how your relationships with various characters will build and branch out over.
It's probably not going to do anything, by the way. I think I can guess how this is going to play out. You use the sarcastic option for a conversation. Well, down the line, when you meet that character again, 50 fucking billion years later, you know what's going to happen? You're just not going to be able to take the option that is, like, the best one for the circumstance or something like that, because you were a snarky asshole. That's it. That's the consequence. That's probably the consequence. Just the dialogue box grayed out because reasons.
Time based on your attitude. Speaking of consequences, it quickly became clear to me that there would be consistently tons of choices in the Veilguard that will have lasting results. It probably seems like I'm stating the obvious here, but I got the sense that even more of these kinds of choices might be peppered throughout the...
By the way, this is also a lie. The way that this is described doesn't mean actually anything. Maybe this is like the ending gets changed a little bit, who knows. But yeah, so... just from this, I know that there is no way that actual player choice matters in this game because of one simple thing. If you choose a dialogue that's snarky, positive, negative, or anything, you don't get an immediate response. The response is still effectively kind of the same, but it effectively tells you, oh, the Dreadwolf's gonna remember that. That's it. That's it.
Than the usual BioWare game. Right at the beginning, for instance, I made a decision that led to Harding getting injured, and she remained bruised up for the remainder of the next couple of hours. I felt like a real jerk about it, and that was probably the point. Dragon Age the Veilguard seemed to be telling me right from the start that I'm going to feel...
Holy shit, imagine, you make a choice and someone gets injured for a bit. Wow.
Felt like a jerk a lot. Without spoiling too much, you'll be able to see some of your progression and choices in the environment around you as well. I used to pray for times like these. Look, obviously, we have to wait until we have the game in hand. But just reading here about consequence and choices is extremely exciting. For me, as a long-term BioWare fan...
Again, I'm putting all my force on press X to doubt on this.
And I go back to Baby Maddie Day 1, Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic, my ideal choice and consequence experience, my first choice and consequence experience. I used to call it the choose your own adventure game because I didn't know what an RPG was when I was like 5 years old. That game was so important to me, and over time BioWare introduced that level of choice and then some to many of their games. I'm curious because it's not really overly mentioned here other than that you can bring the Inquisitor in, is how much older Dragon Age games play a factor. Origins too, like how far reaching is the keep for Dragon Age. I'm interested in learning a little bit more about that. But as a self-contained story, I am very excited that they are focusing on choice, because again, you look at those older games and they really got away from it. I think a lot of people don't really acknowledge that BioWare has always strived to be an action RPG studio, and they think that's responsible for why they don't focus on choices as much. But when you really look at starting with Jade Empire and into Mass Effect, like that's where they really became an action RPG studio. You just had in the middle of all that Dragon
Yeah, and that shows from Mass Effect's 3-colored endings.
Age Origins, which was phenomenal, and from there all you got were action games from BioWare.
And then into obviously Andromeda, which was even more amazing as a game.
But it was really that I think of games like Mass Effect Andromeda, which clearly wanted to do choice, but was in such development turmoil that they couldn't do choice. So to see here that, hey, it looks like they're figuring out, and immediately little choices like, oh, Harding is injured, to bigger choices potentially impacting the environment. Like, this is what we've been looking for
Impacting the environment, a big choice. Oh, fuck off.
from BioWare. And so I'm just hoping they're finally delivering on the thing we've been asking from them for a while. Because as I've said, since I started to see some of the higher level gameplay, it's starting to feel more and more about story execution, writing execution than anything. So to know that mechanically, at least, like, oh, there are choices accounted for, is step one in the right direction for me. As mentioned earlier, one of my biggest worries was that the Veilguard could end up being more linear in its approach, trading branching gameplay for a straight line. And sure, the opening hours, essentially the tutorial zone, are a little railroady, save for a couple of key decisions you have to make. But once you're past that, and more established within Act 1, you're more free to tackle quests as you please as you unlock more and more regions. You do this.
Wait. This is a smoke screen. This doesn't actually mean that you have... This is very easy to misunderstand with the idea that you have choices that are gonna impact the storyline and how things play out. But no, this is actually just talking about the game being on rails, and after you finish the tutorial, now you have just a choice between do you want to go here, or do you want to go there, or here, or here. It doesn't actually imply that you're gonna be able to impact the story or anything. It just tells you, yeah, you're free to go in one of these places. This is intentionally written to mislead people. 100%.
As you please as you unlock more and more regions. You do this via the Crossroads. For those who aren't brushed up on their Dragon Age lore, that's a nexus between the waking world of Thedas and the metaphysical realm of the Fade, through which the ancient elves would travel through magical mirrors called Illuvians. You can now use the Illuvians for the same purpose, and to unlock new regions, you have to fight through certain areas of the Crossroads before you can start fast traveling to them. Unlocking said regions opens up a vast network of areas, and, not unlike past Dragon Age games, they're dramatically different from one another. Take, for example, the Arlethan Forest, a gorgeous, colorful region whose aesthetics mix greenery with elven magic. You can see Nugs burrow into the...
Whoa, that's so unique! Greenery and elven magic? Whoa! This is the first time I even think of a concept like this. That's so... Said no one ever?
Grass, magical artifacts abound, and there's a vast array of nature to simply just admire. You're hit with a massive tone shift. However, when you head to Hossberg, currently under siege by the Blight, here's where you'll see some of the more horror-inspired aesthetics, and frankly, just some of the grosser aspects of the Blight. While the Veilguard's tone certainly leans more high fantasy in places like the Crossroads, don't worry, those who miss the gore and dark fantasy of Origins will find that too in places where the Blight has spread.
Yeah, I kind of don't believe that, honestly. I'm not buying this for a second, honestly.
So this is kind of interesting to me because what they're describing reminds me a lot of Origins, where you had these areas peppered about that you could explore, and some were more open than others, some were more linear than others. Dragon Age 2 was extremely linear, and obviously Inquisition served as our more open area. So this idea of the Crossroads, which kind of leads you to different locations and they're more explorable as well, is very exciting because it sounds like there's more game here than I was anticipating. Looking at this on paper, I was really expecting a heavily linear game, like Dragon Age 2 style. To know it's a little bit more open is interesting because now we have that opportunity of like, what content do we want to fill it in with? Well, they actually answer that here in the preview, saying, once I was in the thick of things, I could clearly see the, okay, we heard the complaints features in the Veilguard, specifically addressing the infamous hinterlands problem, a reference to the first open world areas players visit in Inquisition. The zone was packed with more than 50 side quests, many of which boiled down to mere fetch quests and left many players drowning in a bevy of checklists that felt inconsequential to the story. The Veilguard has boiled this down quite a lot. You're still free to explore, and the scope isn't nearly as dizzying, and the quests point back to the main story, a region, or faction, or a companion. So this is, to me, the best news. I struggle to love Dragon Age Inquisition. Like, if you were to have me rank the current Dragon Age games, it would truly be Origins 2 Inquisition, which I know for many is a hot take, but I think 2 has actually aged quite well in many ways. And also Inquisition,
Okay.
I just struggle to, it's almost hard to avoid the hinterlands problems because you do have to explore a little bit, and naturally your brain wants to hit some of these checklists, and it's like, that's not what I'm here for with the BioWare experience. Like, some of the locales are beautiful, but I just want to play the story, which when you finally earn enough power to get to the next main story, that's the good stuff. But the game kind of gets in its own way. So to know that, hey, that's off to the side and there is stuff here, but it's pointing to a region, a faction, a companion, or the main story, is excellent. Like, that to me is tremendously exciting, because bloat was Inquisition's biggest problem. It's why I know, and a surprise, the guy who likes BioWare games, when Inquisition won Game of the Year, I was like, are you kidding me? How? It just didn't make any sense to me. I know 2014 wasn't a great year for games, and I'm not going to say Inquisition is awful, but I don't think it was Game of the Year quality. Like, to me, it was very obviously flawed. So yeah, I'm glad to see the hinterlands problem has been addressed here, according to IGN. And they continue on here as they get ready to wrap up their preview, saying, I found the lighthouse, which is the hub area for the game.
By the way, this combat looks bad, not gonna lie.
For those that remember our last video on Dragon Age, somewhat symbolic of one of the biggest challenges this game is facing, bringing in new players while honoring the now incredibly vast lore that Dragon Age has built across the games, comic books, short stories, and more. Basically, if you were worried that the name change from Dragon Age Dreadwolf would mean less Solus, think again. His history, along with the history of the Evanurs, are baked into the lighthouse, and you learn more and more about the threat you face as you unlock Solus's murals with various wolf statues. You even get to see some of his memories firsthand. Again, this is why I wanted to make this video, because there are a lot of understandable concerns about Dragon Age the Veilguard, given the name change, given the fact that it was in development for a while, the initial trailer, and I do think there is a...
Well, I mean, at the end of the day, we're just gonna have to wait and see. Is this gonna be, by the way, a complete disaster? I personally think not. I think enough people are gonna enjoy it, but, you know, it definitely will lose a lot of the old people who like this game. And the thing is, I don't think this is gonna... Being fucking Fortnite is not gonna bring new people in here. And by the way, this is probably supposed to be one of the dark and gritty zones right here that we're seeing. And... No, I'm gonna just say absolutely no. Anyway, that was Manny Plays. Bye-bye.